Hello, Internet, and welcome to day 2 of the quarantine and episode 66 of the Deep Fried Neurons Podcast. And I know it's just been one day since the last one, but I really wanted to upload an episode. I haven't uploaded a single one in March, and I think you guys deserve it, especially because I have such lovely Patreon supporters. And a special mention to the most wholesome commenter of the month, Captain Atheist, if you're listening to this, because it's difficult. I don't know, he tunes in sometimes he doesn't. If this episode finds your way to its way to you, thank you for your comments, and this content is because you keep listening. Thank you. And I think that's enough pandering to the audience for the day. I'm gonna cue the fucking... So this is a story all about how I had this conversation with a lady named Gayatri. Did not expect to start this podcast that way, by the way. But anyway, we're here. So I'm talking to Gayatri at a house party. It's pretty late. It's a house party of a common friend. She's away with her friends. While, these close bits of her personal life that just exist in isolation outside her big friends group. Gayatri and I were from those separate bubbles together. So we ended up talking to each other because there was literally nothing else to do, and it was 2 a.m. It was too early or too late to go home. So we were talking about, in general, how our life was in Pune, and Gayatri was just graduated, just like I had at the time. For no reason at all, we were talking about excess, not excess as in, how Wolf of Wall Street is excess as in ex-boyfriends and ex-girlfriends. And she was telling me about this particular boy that she never really dated, but really was the most memorable hookup of her entire life. I know everybody's kutte log ke kaan khade moment has come because sex, haha. Do you get it? Because all of us are sexually repressed. That's kind of funny, right? I hate myself. Anyway, so she's telling me about the most memorable hookup she's ever had. And it was about this dude who was significantly younger than she was. I mean, I think she was 22 when they hooked up and he was kind of 19. But she told me that he did not look even ambiguously 19. He looked ambiguously in his 20s. Pinned down mid-20s. If somebody said this man is of any age given the range of 20 and 30, you would have no trouble believing that. In addition to the description of his looks, she said he had a very generic face. The kind of face that if you look away, you wouldn't remember it. But the moment you saw it, you're gonna add a name to that face. That's the kind of face he has. It's kind of, I don't know what's the word for it, but she described him as ambiguous. Very lost in the crowd, but stand out if you noted him kind of a face. And otherwise his personality was that of a thinking man's fuckboy. That's my terminology, not hers, but I'm gonna get in so much trouble for this. The kurta wearing, curls hanging over top into the right eye and no hair on the sides kind of dude with clean shave. That's the one I'm talking about. And they met at a club, and he, while was the quiet one in the corner, was attracting the most attention in the club altogether. Everybody noted him. Everybody knew who he was, and they didn't know why they knew who he was, which is strange because usually college parties have a very defined parameter of clout. At least were the colleges that I went to. Not necessarily all colleges, but usually the popular kids are very well known for the reasons that they're popular. This one was not one of those cases. He was quite new to the town, and he was just in his second year, and not a part of the committee, not necessarily the most active student ever. He was attracting a lot of attention, and which is why, in a drunken haze, Gayatri talked to him. And one thing led to another, and she was very impressed by his knowledge on arts, electric sciences, like the sciences, electronics, engineering, law, philosophy, you name it, this man knew about everything. And she sort of went home with him because she was so impressed with his knowledge, and she did not know his age until they got back home. And then she described what could only be called fangirling. Like, then what she did could only be described fangirling, because she said that he was definitely the best sex she's ever had, and she remembers him almost all the time, which is, and also was predominantly the reason why she was single. Here comes the weird part. She said that there are acts that I would not do in bed or otherwise, even in a restaurant, that I did just because he said I should do. Like, he was very persuasive is what she said, but it seemed like it was coercion, not the kind of coercion she would object to. He just said what she should do, and she did it. And it was a weird, hypnotizing moment for her of realization that she didn't really have all autonomy in that situation, which was kind of freaky. And that's all she told me. But after that, your boy went into a spree of thinking about what she meant by that. Why did this conversation have the words that she used so deliberately about him? And I found a parallel to this, which is quite interesting. She might be talking about a cosmic horror deity named Nyarlathotep. Now, for the people who are regular listeners of the podcast, this might not be a very strange or a new name. Episode 4 features the name of Nyarlathotep, but we don't talk about him as much. For the rest of you, Nyarlathotep is a god from the HP Lovecraft mythos, the Cthulhu Mythos as they're popularly known. And I traced back to him because those are the powers he had. He had multiple forms, and he walked amongst the humans, and they sort of can't help but worship him. They're very impressed with the knowledge he possesses, and he loves admiration. There is no doubt about that. Of course, there are stories like the dreams in the witch house. I think that's one of the stories where he's evil, and he's persuading people to hurt themselves, or is the entity which the protagonist is running away from in the story. But Nyarlathotep is one of the old gods that walks amongst the humans. And the way I understand the literature around him, it seems like Nyarlathotep enjoys toying with humans, especially having them believe that they have autonomy in certain decisions is something he enjoys. The more I read about it, the more fascinated I got with it, because HP Lovecraft, the guy who wrote most of these books, wrote almost all his cosmic horror entities inspired by a nightmare, and Nyarlathotep was not very different. He woke up from sweating from a nightmare, and he wrote down about Nyarlathotep, a god with many forms that walks the earth, gathering admiration and approval from people, and people can't help but say no to him. This has quite a few overlaps with two other superstitious or supernatural entities that we know of in popular literature, shapeshifters and succubus and incubuses, in the sense that they're very beautiful and very attractive and very popular, and the other one that can shapeshift, basically. But Nyarlathotep is a little different than both of them. I talked to people who've read most of these books, more than I have anyway, and they told me that Nyarlathotep is not technically a shapeshifter. He just has many forms, and a lot of them happen to be human-like. The first appearance of Nyarlathotep is, of course, in a story titled Nyarlathotep, where H.P. Lovecraft, in one breath, is describing his dream about how Nyarlathotep entered the earth on a clear, starry night in Egypt, dressed like a pharaoh, and how people would gather around to look at him. And given how the story goes and how Nyarlathotep has reoccurred in his literature, it would seem that Nyarlathotep walks around people gathering admiration and becomes a popular entity very often. Not to mention, the story also has these references to electronic poles and his powers to conjure static electricity, which sort of have an interesting parallel in time, because this was right around the time when Nikola Tesla was around. So it is possible that Nyarlathotep was written after Nikola Tesla as a person. And that got me thinking that about a line from Inglourious Basterds. I know that's a weird jump, but keep up with me. I think the first scene with Hitler and his generals talking about the Inglourious Basterds, Hitler says that the soldiers have been making rumors that the bear Jew, who is one of the characters of the Inglourious Bastards, is a golem, a monster, and his general is trying to convince him that the soldiers just gossip. That there is no way that they actually believe that a man, a soldier from America, is an actual golem. And Hitler says, why not? He seems to have the powers to appear and disappear at will, and he captures the imagination of the soldier in fear. And is that how we assign gods meaning as well? As in, a person who's really good at something, whose abilities are way beyond our cognition, do we just call that godly power, and eventually the exaggeration becomes the reality? Because even Nyarlathotep sort of has this presence in current society. Are you telling me YouTube celebrities who have controversies after controversies, but still have a fan base that people will worship no matter what, stuck behind a screen, do not have any resemblance to this outer god deity? Not to mention, he doesn't have, like, Nyarlathotep is a god beyond dimensions, which means that object permanence doesn't matter to him. It could be just one, it could be multiple people at multiple places, because he can travel through space and time. He exists outside these dimensions. So, I don't know, man. Kind of an interesting thought that I had, and I thought I'd share with you. Also, the quarantine's been kind of boring. And beyond this, let me know if you've come across a figure that resembles a Nyarlathotep. Thank you. Okay, people, that's all I have for you this week. I've been reading a lot. I've been watching a lot of TV, which is kind of nice. It's a break from my busy schedule, which is why I got time to focus on the content. Might upload more episodes soon-ish. And I hope you're enjoying what I'm putting out. If you're not, or if you have suggestions as to what I should cover, definitely leave it in the comments. I wanted to bring you more interviews. I really did. But I think I might have mentioned in the last episode that the quarantine is the bigger problem. I don't want to risk anybody's health, let alone mine. So let's hope this blows past us soon, and then we can go back to getting more interviews. Till then, thank you for listening, and like, share, subscribe if you liked the content. If you really like the content, head over to Patreon and support this page. And that's that. Thank you for listening. Bye.